Welcome back to Clear Cut. Police say a Florida teen charged with murder reached out to ISIS, trying to join the terrorist group. Police say 17-year-old Corey Johnson confessed to stabbing a 13-year-old boy and seriously injuring two other teens during a sleepover last weekend. Johnson is a Muslim convert, and police say he committed the crime because the teens made fun of his Islamic faith. The FBI was reportedly monitoring his activities since January of last year. Johnson is also accused of making threats to a Catholic high school in England via social media. He faces federal charges in that case. Joining me now is Ryan Mauro, national security analyst for the Clarion Project. Ryan, good to have you with us. And Ryan, investigators say that the 17-year-old Johnson planned to kill all three of these kids in their sleep, and that he admitted to reading the Quran just before the stabbing attack to give him courage, as he says, to carry out his intentions, that he often watched videos about Muslim jihadis online. What is your reaction to this?
My reaction is that, unfortunately, especially with these type of radicalizations and mental health issues rising, this is a sign of what's to come. What you're seeing right now is the jihad generation becoming active, where you've had jihadists using the ability to connect with children and teenagers online to make celebrities out of youth that become radicalized and to glorify it. And this is something that we haven't seen before, but you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg right now. And there's always that temptation to blame this on bullying, saying that they made fun of him for being a Muslim, or saying it's a mental health issue because he reportedly didn't take his antidepressant for a week prior to the attack. And those are excuses. The fact is that there's such a mental health problem. It's so easy to be labeled as someone in need of mental health, especially as a teenager, that that's not the decisive factor here. And he got his interpretations, by the way, from somewhere. I hear what you're saying, Ryan, and to your point, the argument is made that it's mostly disenfranchised people or disenfranchised youth that resort to this Islamic radical ideology, that it's Western oppression or lack of opportunity or lack of societal integration that drives them to do this. Now, you do not necessarily see that link, so what does drive them to do this? Something far more simple and therefore scarier, which is simply the ideology that, yes, may impact people that already are predisposed towards violence, but large numbers of people in society like that exist. Not all of them do this. And so you can point to someone being bullied or feeling alienated from society, and yes, that link may be there, but it's not what is going to form a solution, because that's life. You can't blame the inevitabilities of life, the hardships that we face, and say this abstract problem is what we need to attack. Well, let's be clear here. It's the ideology. I mean, he's reading the Quran before he carries out the attack for a reason. He had some interpretation in his mind. I'm very interested to see who mentored him. And what may have been happening here is he may have been trying to radicalize one of his friends among this group, because supposedly the night before, he was watching jihadist videos online with one of his friends. So this is a story not just of one radical acting upon radical beliefs at a young age, but a story of an attempt to radicalize children on a broader scale by this one operative. And the other recommendation I would make is that we need to stop looking at people who express sympathy for white supremacists, Nazis, or jihadists and say, well, that's just hate speech if they're a teenager. No, I consider that strong evidence of an intent to murder. That's how you handle this.
Ryan, always appreciate your perspective and analysis. Ryan Mauro, the national security analyst for the Clarion Project. Thank you. Well, it was arraignment day for Nicholas Cruz, the confessed shooter in the Parkland school shooting massacre. The judge entered a plea of not guilty to the charges of premeditated and attempted murder on his behalf. Cruz killed 17 students and staff at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School on February 14th. Prosecutors say that they will seek the death penalty. And it's been exactly a month since that Florida school shooting, and today tens of thousands of students across the U.S. staged a walkout to show their solidarity. The students also came out in full force to protest Congress's inaction against gun violence. I-24 News correspondent Marcus White has the details.
What do we want? From coast to coast, students walked out of class pushing for change. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School student David Hogg live-streamed the walkout at his school, which is still grieving from the tragedy.
We're walking out of school because how can we be expected to do our jobs as students and learn if our politicians won't?
Schools across the country allowed the walkouts, but others threatened discipline for leaving class.
Hey! Ho, ho! Gun violence has got to go! Hey!
Thousands of students gathered in front of the White House with a message for President Trump. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was spotted at a demonstration in New York City. And at exactly 10 a.m., students from Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis High School in Manhattan walked out with their fellow teen activists from around the country.
Enough.
And then
we are going to have 17 minutes of silence to represent each life that was taken away too soon. These victims are Lisa Al-Hadef, 14 years old.
They stood in silence after reading the names of each of the victims of the massacre in Florida. There were nearly 200 students at this protest. Most of them had the same reason to walk out.
We're in great danger. We're in risk of being shot.
Me going to school, it's just sad that I have to be scared for my life. I come to school to get an education, and that I have to have a fear for my friends, my classmates, my own family of getting hurt.
Students say after the latest school shooting, they learned a lesson no student should ever have to learn.
It really hit close to home for us that we can wake up one day and not see our parents again.
Many wore orange buttons, hoping to show their stance against gun violence. Adults held a protest across the street and shared a message of their own to New Yorkers who walked by. And students shared a message to their fellow classmates.
Make yourself aware of your district's representative.
Our duty as the next generation, we are rising up and our voice needs to be heard.
In New York, Marcus White, I-24 News.
All right, when we come back, off to the White House, Larry Kudlow is the latest key player to join Team Trump. And police clashed with protesters outside the U.S. Embassy in Paris. Those stories and more when Clear Cut continues in just 60 seconds.